everyone, and welcome to the Nature for Life Hub. I'm Maya Garnier, your guide on today's journey. The song we just heard, composed by the talented artist Dove Gaore, opened the hub for a reason. It holds a special meaning. Eyoka means thank you, and it's a heartfelt expression of gratitude towards nature and life itself. Today, we're embarking on a quest to discover the paths to a healthier planet and our sustainable future. During our exploration, think about this. What small steps can you take to make a big difference for nature? Our journey begins in a world where nature is under pressure, but there's hope. Together, we can create a future where people and nature thrive. Today, we'll talk about nature, climate, and land. Our first stop is the Global Compass for Nature, the Global Biodiversity Framework. It's a groundbreaking plan to stop and reverse the loss of nature. It helps us build a future where people and nature live in harmony. Ready to dive into the details? Let's watch this video for a dose of hope and inspiration.
Imagine a world teeming with life, where vibrant ecosystems flourish and every species has its place. A world where humans and nature coexist in harmony, creating a sustainable future for generations to come. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework is a blueprint for this vision. It's a bold plan to protect and restore nature, ensuring a thriving planet for all. This ambitious framework sets out 4 key goals for a healthier planet by 2050. Goal 1 aims to halt biodiversity loss, avoid extinctions, and increase the abundance and health of life on Earth. The Global Biodiversity Framework urges governments to develop national nature-friendly land use plans as the basis for a shift in how we manage nature. It calls on governments to protect 30% of land and water and to restore 30% of degraded ecosystems. That's more than 1 billion hectares. It also calls on governments to halt the extinction of species, control the spread of invasive species, minimize pollution, and reduce the impacts of climate change. Goal 2 encourages the world to value, maintain, and restore nature's contributions to people. The Global Biodiversity Framework promotes a shift from unsustainable practices that harm biodiversity to sustainable and resilient approaches. It also calls on society to restore areas essential for supporting life, to regulate air, water, climate, and soil, and to use nature to improve people's lives in cities. Goal 3 promotes fair sharing of the resources and knowledge associated with biodiversity. The Global Biodiversity Framework acknowledges the long-standing role of indigenous peoples and local communities as environmental stewards and calls for increased benefit sharing from genetic resources. The 4th goal calls for innovative solutions to our nature crisis. This means integrating biodiversity in decisions at all levels and reducing the impact of businesses on nature. It means that all of us need to do our part to make sustainable choices and reduce waste. It means ensuring that all countries can safely and fairly manage biotechnology. Finally, it means closing the funding gap for biodiversity, including by reducing subsidies that harm nature and mobilizing at least $200 billion a year for action on nature. By working together, by strengthening our science and capacity, by sharing knowledge, and by ensuring inclusive decisions, we can ensure everyone has the tools and resources needed to protect our planet's future. The Global Biodiversity Framework outlines a path forward, from creating safe havens for endangered species to supporting sustainable practices. We can create a brighter future for all living things. And the most amazing part, you can be a part of it. Every action, big or small, contributes to a healthier planet. Join the movement. Learn more about the Global Biodiversity Framework and discover ways you can make a difference.
Now that we've seen the bigger picture with the Global Biodiversity Framework, let's zoom in on the national trails. National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans, or NBSAPs, are like local guides, helping countries navigate their unique paths to sustainability. Want to learn more about how these plans work? Let's check out this video.
We know that the world agreed to an ambitious plan for nature, the Global Biodiversity Framework. But our planet's biodiversity is as diverse as the countries that call it home. Every country has its own unique mix of species and biodiversity. So implementing this framework will be different in each country. That's why a one-size-fits-all approach to safeguarding nature does not work. Each country needs to develop its own plan to implement this global framework. That's where NBSAPs come in, National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans, plans that help governments decide how they will implement these global goals. NBSAPs are powerful instruments for translating the Global Biodiversity Framework into national action. Think of them as custom-designed roadmaps for nature in each country. These plans chart a course for protecting and restoring a country's unique biodiversity and ensuring a sustainable future for all its inhabitants. How do NBSAPs achieve all of this? First, NBSAPs are for everyone. Although driven by governments, the process of developing NBSAPs should include the whole society. Second, NBSAPs should include actions that not only protect, restore, and sustainably manage nature, but also actions that safeguard people and fairly share the benefits of nature. Clean air, water, food security, these all depend on a healthy planet. NBSAPs help us achieve these by integrating biodiversity consideration into various sectors. Third, NBSAPs can be a tool to help society align its goals across a wide range of government sectors, aiming for coordinated national roadmap for nature. Imagine agriculture practices that nurture the soil, tourism that respect wildlife habitats, and urban planning that incorporates green spaces. NBSAPs pave the way for this sustainable future. Fourth, NBSAPs should be roadmaps ready to be implemented. This means having clear goals and targets aligned with the Global Biodiversity Framework, together with a ready-to-go action plan. And finally, none of this will be possible without a finance plan to implement an NBSAP. While the world spends nearly $2 trillion on harmful subsidies, we spend just a fraction of what is needed to safeguard our planet. Repurposing these subsidies and investing in a livable planet is essential for a successful NBSAP. So, what can you do to help protect our planet? By understanding NBSAPs, you can become an advocate for a sustainable future. Whether you're a government official, a business leader, or a concerned citizen, you can play a vital role in ensuring the success of your country's NBSAP. Learn more about your country's plan.
It's clear that the implementation of the GBS and the design of an impactful and all-inclusive NBSAP is a really ambitious undertaking. But imagine having a global cheerleader to support and encourage you. That's where the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People comes in. This coalition, made up of nearly 120 countries, is rallying nations to take bolder actions to protect nature. It is inspiring nations to come together for a common cause. Their goal is ambitious: to protect at least 30% of our planet's land and oceans by 2030. Let's watch this video to see how this coalition is sparking a global conservation movement.
Hello everyone, my name is Rita Zagnul and I'm the director of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. It's my pleasure to be today with you at the 2024 Nature for Life Hub, sharing a bit about the work of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. The HAC is a coalition that was created based on science. Scientists emphasize the urgent need to safeguard a minimum of 30% of the world's land and 30% of its ocean by 2030, to curb biodiversity loss and avert the dire consequences of ecosystem collapse. Such a monumental goal necessitates substantial international collaboration, political determination, and finance to ensure its successful realization. And this is how the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, or the HAC for Nature and People, was established. The coalition was launched in 2021 with the aim to ensure the adoption of the 30 by 30 target. It was a political and diplomatic effort of many countries, led by its co-chairs Costa Rica and France, together with over 100 countries from all regions. The HAC has a deep commitment in working with governments, indigenous peoples and local communities, NGOs, IGOs, financial institutions, the private sector, and other stakeholders in achieving the goal of protecting at least 30% of our planet's land and ocean by 2030. In 2022, the 30 by 30 target, or Target 3, was adopted within the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and the role of the HAC shifted to supporting countries in the implementation of this crucial target. The HAC provides a single entry point, or a one-stop shop, for the delivery of 30 by 30, connecting its 120 countries with a multiplicity of stakeholders worldwide, with a focus both on a political and technical level. On the political level, we strive to cultivate political leadership at the highest level to champion the 30 by 30 cause. The coalition engages with heads of state and heads of government, ministers, to drive political momentum for 30 by 30 and to put the spotlight on the crisis of biodiversity. On the technical aspect, the aim is to motivate countries and partners across the globe to deliver on their part of the 30 by 30 goal. Our Secretariat is able to centralize information and ensure the right support gets to the right places to minimize duplication of work and provides priority assistance for developing and small states. The HAC works closely with over 40 organizations who provide specific skills and assistance and identifies from the governments what their gaps and needs are on 30 by 30. In this regards, the HAC has developed two tools. The first one is the 30 by 30 Solutions Toolkit, which is a curated online platform developed with IUCN and WCPA and the Nature Conservancy, and supports technical teams and practitioners in understanding the complexities of Target 3. The second tool is the 30 by 30 matchmaking platform, which allows governments to matchmake with providers, foundations, and technical partners who can assist them on their specific 30 by 30 needs. We have less than 6 years to reach the 30 by 30 target, and our coalition aims to work tirelessly with its members and partners towards achieving this crucial target. We invite you to visit our website and to also access the 30 by 30 Solutions Toolkit to learn more about our work. I hope you have fruitful discussions, and I look forward to engaging with all of you. Thank you very much.
Inspired by these global efforts for nature yet? Let's turn to Scotland for a shining example of how a strong commitment to nature can drive sustainable development. They've blazed a trail, showing us how to integrate nature into everyday life and its future. Let's have a look.
Here in Scotland, we firmly believe that we must address the global challenge of fighting the twin crises of climate change and biodiversity loss together. We're honoured to be President of the Regions for Sustainable Development Network and European co-chair of the Under 2 Coalition. In these leadership roles, we will look to draw the work of these two organisations together to tackle the twin crises, to build greater ambition at all levels of government, and to strengthen the case for greater inclusion of devolved state and regional governments in international decision-making fora. Our voices are stronger when we speak collectively. The Edinburgh process demonstrated that devolved and regional governments can push for greater ambition and ensured our voices were embedded in the new global biodiversity framework. On behalf of the Regions 4 and Under 2 networks, I invite colleagues from devolved governments around the world to join us so that we can continue to drive progress in tackling the twin crises together. We know that up to 80% of mitigation and adaptation actions needed to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss will be taken at the devolved government level. So only by realising the full potential of devolved states will we be successful in achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. That's why we are building meaningful and lasting international partnerships to mobilise action and ambition and develop solutions to address our shared climate and nature challenges. Scotland is committed to being a bridge builder and to amplifying the voices of the Global South. We're also committed to addressing the unequal impacts of climate change and nature loss on marginalised people, especially young people and women. We're proud to have been one of the first nations to put climate justice at the heart of its international climate action, recognising that those least responsible for the global climate emergency are being affected first and most severely by it. This principle will continue to drive our climate and biodiversity action and global advocacy as we seek to tackle the twin crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. For example, our community-led Climate Justice Resilience Fund recognises and addresses the impact of non-economic loss and damage, including biodiversity and nature loss. Around the world, regions are leading the way in demonstrating that the actions required to address both climate change and biodiversity loss are not only a pressing need, but are fundamentally linked. This is our approach here in Scotland. Our new biodiversity strategy and delivery plan set out a nature-positive vision for Scotland, to halt the loss of nature by 2030 and to make significant progress to restoring nature by 2045. We are committed to expanding, improving and protecting areas managed for nature with an ambitious commitment to protect 30% of our land for nature by 2030. And we've committed to invest at least an additional £500 million in the natural economy over the course of this Parliament. Our Nature Restoration Fund is a key lever in delivering our biodiversity strategy, funding large-scale, multi-year, multi-partner projects which drive nature recovery and help address climate change. We support landowners with pollinator projects to help boost food production and support improved access to green spaces throughout Scotland. We've also committed £250 million to restore 250,000 hectares of degraded peatland over 10 years, with 75,000 hectares delivered to date. Indeed, we were delighted that the peatland-rich flow country in the north of Scotland was recently inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is the first time a peatland site has been recognised in this way and highlights the importance of this area of Scotland. It is the largest intact and most extensive blanket bog in the world and is a huge carbon sink, as well as a haven for nature. Finally, in forestry, we have planted 30 million trees in Scotland, nearly 75% of all new woodland in the UK. All of these actions help to reduce harmful emissions and support our progress to net zero and towards being nature positive. We in Scotland are committed to delivering lasting action to secure a net zero and nature positive future in a way that is fair and just for everyone. And we will continue to demonstrate the leading action that smaller governments can take to achieve that goal.
Thank you, Scotland, for all your efforts to make biodiversity an essential part of your policies. So far, we've heard about the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, rallying nations to adopt ambitious targets for protecting nature. But imagine needing a turbo boost to put those plans into action. The MBSAP Accelerator Partnership is like rocket fuels for these national plans. It's helping countries implement their MBSAPs faster and more effectively. Now let's see how these two initiatives work together. The High Ambition Coalition as the inspiring coach, and the MBSAP Accelerator Partnership as the training camp to support countries in their efforts to protect our planet. We'll hear from Odile Conchou, Deputy Director of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, and Diego Ochoa, the Communication and Advocacy Lead for the MBSAP Accelerator Partnership. I'm delighted to hand over the stage to my colleague Alina, who will facilitate this discussion. Alina, over to you.
Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Alina and I'm thrilled to be here today with Diego, who is sharing insights on the MBSAP Accelerator Partnership a topic that is crucial for our collective future. As we go through this conversation, I encourage you to submit your questions in the chat, and I will make sure to pass them on to Diego. Diego, let's dive right in. Can you explain what the NBCEP Accelerator Partnership is and what it aims to do?
Well, the NBCEP Accelerator Partnership is a country-led initiative that aims to accelerate the implementation of the national biodiversity strategies and action plans at national level following the global biodiversity framework. The NBCEP Accelerator Partnership has the mandate to elevate and to help elevate the political will of the implementation of the NBCEPs at national level.
That sounds like a crucial initiative, Diego. So, what kind of support does the partnership really bring to the table? What specific services does it offer to its members?
Basically, the NBCEP Accelerator makes this happen through several services that are offered to the members. Those services include the facilitator program, which is having a person, an expert in the country working with the Ministry of Environment or the agency in charge of biodiversity management in order to move forward the agenda of the implementation of the NBCEPs. And the second service is the matchmaking facility, which is the marketplace that helps countries with requests to fill gaps or advance NBCEPs to match with solutions and providers of solutions across the world in order as well to advance the NBCEP implementation. All this in order to achieve the desire of living in harmony with nature by 2030.
It's incredible to hear about the initiatives such as the facilitator program and the matchmaking facility. It really illustrates the importance of collaboration, doesn't it? The goal of living in harmony with nature by 2030 certainly resonates with all of us, especially given the challenges we face today. So, why do you think the NBCEP Accelerator Partnership is so crucial right now?
I think we have a unique and one of the latest opportunities now to change the trajectory of the humanity managing biodiversity and that connection and relationship with nature. We have this opportunity through the national strategies and action plans of biodiversity to change that trajectory, to incorporate the nature into our decision-making processes at national agenda, to mainstream biodiversity in the way that we are doing business, the way that we have relations with nature, in the way that we use biodiversity. So I think the NBCEP Accelerator plays a key role in doing that job of connections between what the gaps and what the needs are in terms of implementation and how we can provide solutions, providers of those solutions.
Those are insightful points, Diego. Connecting the dots between needs and solutions is key. With less than 7 years to meet the global biodiversity framework, the pressure is certainly on. It's a call to action for all nations. Now, let's look ahead. What are your hopes for the NBCEP Accelerator Partnership in 5 years?
The NBCEP Accelerator Partnership has an incredibly ambitious agenda of increasing the base of the membership in 5 years in order to have representation not just for all countries or all CDD parties, but also a great representation of biomes and ecosystems of the world. If we are able to incorporate and to include these ecosystems, these biomes, these habitats into the way that NBCEPs are being implemented, we will be able to have a more coherent and comprehensive way to evaluate the successful of the NBCEPs movement into the countries. I also think that in 5 years it's important to have advances in critical targets of the global biodiversity framework. And the NBCEP Accelerator plays a key role in doing that. to identify the country needs, the country gaps, and putting into the request of solutions related to that, but not just solutions from science, which is really important, but also through other sources of knowledge. So it is important the participation of indigenous communities, local communities. It's important to have organized groups, women groups, youth groups. So I see in 5 years that the accelerator has critical to move this mass of movements into the implementation of the MBSTAPs. This is not just a job of the governments, of the CBD parties. This is a job of the societies. And I envision that the MBSTAP accelerator will be promoting the participation of many, many organizations, groups.
That's such an exciting vision, Diego. I love how you highlight the need for collaboration. It really speaks to the idea that we all have a role to play, whether we are a government body, a local community, or even just individuals who care about our environment. So to all the viewers out there, imagine what it would look like if we all teamed up, creating those connections between different groups, sharing ideas and resources. It could totally change the game for biodiversity conservation. It's not just about policies, it's about each of us taking a step forward together for the planet. Our second speaker for this dialogue is Adil Konshu, Deputy Director of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. As we dive into this discussion, remember to type your questions in the chat and I will make sure to pass them along to Adil. Adil, earlier today we learned from Rita Zaglul, Director of the High Ambition Coalition, about the important role the coalition plays in the global efforts to protect and restore nature and to achieve the 30 by 30 goal. Why do you think the High Ambition Coalition is important in this particular point in time?
The hack is really important at this particular point of time because the time is running out. The GBF has been adopted 2 years ago now. The goals have to be implemented by 2030 in order to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. So 2030, that's now 6 years. In 6 years, so the time is short, really short, and the ambition is big. So we all have to work hard and as quick as possible in order to fulfill this commitment by 2030. So in this, all these things to do, the hack has its place, because it supports, and that's really its goal, to support the country members to implement what they have committed to.
That's a crucial point, Adil. The urgency behind the 30 by 30 goal really highlights the need for immediate action. It's clear that the coalition's support is essential to help countries navigate the complexities involved in achieving such ambitious targets. What challenges do countries face in protecting 30% of land and ocean?
In fact, it's not an easy task to protect 30% of land and ocean in the world. What we hear very often through all the events we are organizing and through all the exchanges that we have with our members and partners also is it's complicated for a lot of countries to increase the surface of protected areas, either terrestrial or to create marine protected areas, because that's perhaps more new than terrestrial protected areas. It's because there are conflicts in terms of land use. Countries need economic returns and sometimes don't see these economic returns with the protected areas. There are also conflicts in several countries between development and protection. So that's what we hear in a lot of countries. And there is also a need perhaps to use also some areas which are already managed either by the so-called IPLCs, meaning indigenous people and local communities, which are managing a lot of areas and protecting already these areas, but they have not the so-called status of protected areas. So such zones some hunting zones, some economic zones also could also be integrated in all that. That's what is called by IUCN the OECMs, the other effective conservation measures, which could also be integrated in that. So you see, a lot of work has to be done.
That really highlights the complexity of balancing conservation with economic needs, Adil. It's encouraging to see the coalition addressing these challenges. Raising awareness is key, and integrating local communities' knowledge and governance will be crucial steps in this process. What do you hope the High Ambition Coalition will be able to achieve in the next 5 years?
I would say in 6 years, because 2030 is, in fact, that's the deadline I mentioned. It won't be finished for sure, but that's one of the main deadlines in the Global Biodiversity Framework. What we hope is that perhaps to have more members, but not to have a greater number, but to have more country willing to work together with other country and with us in order to fulfill this commitment of 30 by 30. But above all, what we hope is to have been able to achieve the most possible this commitment of 30 by 30, and to have been able to help all these countries to once again to fulfill this commitment, meaning creating protected areas, marine protected areas, increasing the surface, increasing the quality and the effectiveness of protected areas, and all the example I gave before. So and also working closely with the civil society, IPLCs, and a lot of other partners. And finally, to link all these efforts with all the efforts that are currently being done with climate change, fighting climate change, all these actions, food security and others. To do so, we will continue our work as described before, but we also need more committed partners to help carry out this technical and financial project for our members.
That's a hopeful and ambitious vision, Adil. It stresses the need for collaboration, not only among governments, but also with local communities and civil society to ensure long-term success. Thank you for sharing your insights today. And to our viewers, thank you for being part of this dialogue. Your questions are key to enriching this conversation, so please type them in the chat and I will pass them along to Adil. Let's continue to explore how we can all contribute to a nature-positive future. A big thank you to Odile and Diego for this conversation. Your expertise and passion for the cause are inspiring. Before we move on, let's take a moment to connect with the ocean. The award-winning immersive experience, Sounds of the Ocean, will transport you to the depths of the sea. Remember the question I asked you in the beginning? How can we make our everyday actions more nature positive? As you listen to this performance, think about how you can connect with nature in your own life. After this, we'll be discussing how nature can be one of our strongest allies when it comes to tackling climate change. So stay tuned. What an inspiring performance! A great reminder of our deep connection with nature and the need to protect it. Now let's shift our focus to one of the biggest challenges of our time, climate change. Its impacts are global, but nature itself is a powerful ally in this fight. In the next segment on Nature for Climate, we'll see how harnessing the power of nature can reduce greenhouse gases, mitigate the effects of climate change, and build a more resilient future. Let's dive in.
Climate change affects every corner of our world. We are at a crossroads for humanity and for the planet. We are running out of time. The way we protect, manage, and restore ecosystems today will determine whether we have a livable planet in the future. Up to 40% of the planet is already degraded, and only 16% is protected. Conventional agriculture and forestry practices create a fifth of our global greenhouse gas emissions. The loss of forests, wetlands, grasslands, and mangroves makes us even more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Our financial systems accelerate the loss of nature. Every year, we invest more than $5 trillion in actions that harm nature. If protected and restored, nature can be our most powerful and cost-effective ally in combating climate change. Nature can mitigate more than a third of our greenhouse gas emissions. Nature can buffer us against extreme weather, drought, floods, and storms. To tackle our climate crisis, we must take bold action on nature. There will be no stable climate without a healthy planet. We need to start by rethinking the value of nature in tackling our climate crisis, putting nature at the top of local, national, and global agendas as a climate solution. We must start recognizing the essential role of indigenous peoples in tackling our climate by securing indigenous land rights. We must urgently protect remaining ecosystems and restore degraded ones. We must shift towards a model of regenerative agriculture and forestry, and we must manage natural resources within sustainable limits. We must stop financing the destruction of nature and start financing its protection and restoration. We need a reset on nature. Now is the time.
The video we just watched emphasized how vital nature is to our climate strategy. Nature isn't just a bystander, it's a key player in fighting climate change. Let's build on this and explore how nations are setting their climate goals through nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate impacts. We'll look at how these pledges are crafted, the progress being made, and their alignment with our global climate objective.
What are nationally determined contributions? The Paris Agreement empowers countries to limit the global average temperature increase to as close to 1.5 degrees Celsius as possible to strengthen climate resilience and ensure financial flows are consistent with these goals. Nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, form the basis for countries to achieve Paris Agreement objectives. NDCs embody efforts by each country to reduce national emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. They communicate the ambitious efforts that a country will undertake to address climate change. NDCs are nationally determined so that countries can put forward the most ambitious contributions that their national circumstances allow. NDCs contain information on targets, policies and measures for reducing national emissions and on adapting to climate change impacts such as floods or droughts. Some NDCs also contain information on either the needs for or the provision of finance, technologies and capacity building to enable ambitious climate actions. Countries communicate new or updated NDCs every 5 years starting in 2020. In doing so, they follow guidance adopted in Katowice in 2018 on information to facilitate clarity, transparency and understanding of NDCs. Subsequent NDCs should be more ambitious and not backslide to lower ambition. This is how, at a global level, our actions become more and more ambitious towards reaching the objectives of the Paris Agreement. Communicated NDCs are recorded in a registry maintained by UN Climate Change.
Now that we understand NDCs better, let's focus on how nature can be central to these plans. Nature-based solutions use nature to reduce greenhouse gases and help us adapt to climate impact. Our next video will show how these solutions work, their transformative potential, and why they're crucial for a sustainable future.
Rampant wildfires, mass flooding, extreme temperatures. We are witnessing a planetary crisis unfold in real time, and every passing moment reveals a more pressing need for change. But where there is a problem, there is a solution. And when it comes to tackling the climate crisis, nature is our greatest ally. It's time we recognize its value. This is where nature-based solutions come into play. But what exactly do those look like? Nature-based solutions are all about working with nature instead of against nature. When we champion nature-based solutions, we all benefit from the results they provide for the issues facing our planet. Take mangroves, for example. If all mangroves were lost or destroyed, 15 million more people would be affected by floods across the world each year. This means mangrove forests not only provide habitats for fish, they also provide protective natural barriers and solutions against strong storms, floods and erosion. They filter water, provide food and timber resources to coastal communities, and can store huge amounts of carbon. Conserving and restoring these ecosystems allows people and nature to thrive, all the while reducing risks posed by the climate crisis. By working with nature like this and changing how we use land, researchers estimate we can reduce emissions by up to 1/3 of what's needed to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. And mangroves aren't alone in their value. Other ecosystems also offer incredible solutions to issues we may not even think about, such as coral reefs, whose ability to reduce the intensity of waves is crucial to shielding tens of millions of people from floods. Some studies actually suggest they can be even more effective than human-built breakwaters at this task. Or grasslands and savannas, which provide homes for wildlife and help capture and store carbon. The natural world does so much to sustain and protect us and all those we share this planet with. We must do the same in return, and we must do it now. Nature-based solutions are a win-win for each and every one of us, and it's time we pay attention to them.
It's clear that nature-based solutions help our ecosystems adapt to and fight climate change. But how do we go beyond just protecting nature? How do we create a nature-positive world where nature thrives alongside humanity? The Nature Positive Initiative explores just that.
Forests burning, coral reefs bleaching, wildlife disappearing. We know our natural world is in crisis, but there's still time to turn things around, to reverse nature loss to be nature positive by 2030, meaning we have more nature at the end of the decade than we had at its start. Protecting and restoring nature is not just a nice thing to do, it's essential to safeguard our health and our livelihoods. It's also critical to tackling the climate crisis. Our ocean, plants, and soil suck up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and lock it safely away. Together with the necessary deep cuts to greenhouse gas emissions, action to reverse biodiversity loss can help secure a net zero emissions, nature positive and more equitable world for all. Our governments have already committed to reverse the devastating loss of nature by 2030. We need them to deliver on their promises. Now we need to see ambitious national plans to tackle nature loss, to fully integrate nature in their climate plans, and to take action to safeguard the places and the communities on the front line of the nature crisis. And of course, we also need businesses to play their part. Join me in calling for a nature-positive world, one that turns the negatives around and allows people, planet and nature to thrive. Forests restoring, reefs recovering, wildlife flourishing.
A powerful call for a nature-positive world. So what about you? Are you doing anything to be nature-positive? Do you think you are? Let's all consider how we can turn the negatives around. Now, let's see a real-world example of how communities are putting these ideas into practice. We'll travel to Kenya, where smallholder farmers and rural communities are using nature-based solutions to adapt to the changing climate and improve their livelihoods.
The frequency of droughts, floods, and other extreme climate events in East and Southern Africa has increased over the last 4 decades. Smallholder farmers and poor rural people bear the brunt as the rains are unreliable.
Like now, we are going to the end of October and there is no rain. And so people are getting hungry because there is no water.
This has been caused by deforestation, land degradation, and growing water demand, causing biodiversity loss and loss of livelihoods. Availability and access to water is central to livelihoods and sustainable development.
It's becoming increasingly evident, even as climate changes and the impacts of climate change impact our food systems, that the need to invest in nature-based solutions is completely overdue.
Nature-based solutions are interventions, actions, and policies that enhance the protection, restoration, and management of ecosystems, while contributing to climate adaptation, mitigation, and resilience, as well as social-economic benefits.
Small-scale farmers, who are the major food producers of the region, are highly dependent on natural capital. And by that I mean land, on water, or soil facilities, just to produce food for growing urban settings.
Farmers and rural communities are adapting these technologies because they address their needs at the farm level. Francis Njoroge, a young entrepreneur, has installed a water pan to help him care for his tree seedlings in his nursery, which he sells to farmers and the rural community in his area. Gerald Juma and Tabitha Wangoi have installed biogas for use in their home. This has reduced the amount of firewood they use and has freed more time for Tabitha Wangoi to spend in the market selling her produce. Utilization of natural resources in the form of underground water and solar energy has contributed in enhancing access to water. Shelmith is one of the 65 households in her community with tap water from a community borehole powered by solar. All of this help farmers adapt to the changing climate while improving productivity without damaging the environment.
This knowledge really helps me a lot because I see people around, they have shambas, but they don't make use of them. And they are getting hungry. And they should not be getting hungry because they have their shambas.
It's very important through the different facilities that we have in place, the different co-financing arrangements that we have with the IFAD finance programs, to develop financial solutions for a just rural transition that most of the African countries are now very much in need of.
Now let's go to Colombia, a country rich in biodiversity and a leader in integrating nature into its climate strategies. We're fortunate to have Gisèle Didier from the Humboldt Institute here to share her insights on Colombia's innovative approaches to harmonizing nature and climate goals. To guide us through this discussion, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Alina. Alina, take it away.
Hello everyone, we are back. This time we asked Gisèle Didier to share her insights on the government of Colombia's efforts in integrating action on nature and climate. As we go through this conversation, I encourage you to type your questions in the chat and I will make sure to pass them along to Gisèle. Gisèle, let's dive right in. What is the government of Colombia doing to integrate action on nature and climate?
The Ministry of Environment has convened all research institutes to generate actionable knowledge, combining both scientific and local knowledge to integrate climate change and nature. I can give you 3 examples. First of all, by stopping deforestation in the Amazon basin. We all know the crucial role of forest ecosystems in both absorbing and storing carbon. Reducing deforestation means less carbon emitted to the atmosphere. In these areas where deforestation was likely to occur, basically because of land grabbing practices, the ministry is putting a lot of energy assuring a coordinated action of the different government entities, such as the judicial system, to penalize deforestation while promoting a bioeconomy based on the sustainable use of forests. The second example is the National Restoration Plan, directly related to Target 2 of the Global Biodiversity Framework. By restoring prioritized areas, the country has a powerful tool for deciding where to invest resources, coming primarily from the private sector. And finally, by strengthening the governance of local communities through processes of transferring capacities and sharing information and knowledge.
That's impressive, Gisèle. Stopping deforestation in the Amazon is indeed crucial, especially considering its role in carbon absorption. Coordinating actions across different government entities, including the judicial system, sounds like a significant step. Now, why do you think it is essential to integrate action on nature and climate? What benefits does this integration provide?
Biodiversity and ecosystem services help us to adapt to and mitigate climate change by absorbing and storing carbon, and thus helping to protect us from climate change. They are therefore a crucial part of our effort to combat climate change. Working with nature rather than against nature brings multiple benefits also for preserving our climate. Also, it reduces the vulnerability of people and their livelihoods in the face of climate change. By conserving nature and restoring ecosystem, we reduce vulnerability and increase resilience.
Absolutely. I love your point about nature providing solutions for climate change. It's a refreshing reminder that we can leverage ecosystem services for both adaptation and mitigation. This relationship makes it clear that preserving nature benefits us all. As we look forward, what are your hopes for nature and climate 10 years from now?
I hope that in 5 years, the linkage of nature and climate is already incorporated into the mindset of not only the environmental sector and the scientific people, but also at all levels of society.
That's a powerful vision, Gisèle. The idea that in 5 years, integrating nature and climate becomes second nature to everyone across all sectors of society sounds both inspiring and essential. Thank you for sharing your insights today, Gisèle.
To our viewers, your engagement in these discussions is vital. Please keep your questions coming, and let's keep this dialogue alive. Giselle's insights gave us a lot to think about. What actions do you see as most important in your own community for protecting nature and the climate? Let us know in the chat. While we're reflecting on this, let's get energized with A.Y. Young's powerful message, Save the Planet. His song is reminding us that the time to act is now.
Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at us like we from another planet. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at us like we from another planet. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at us like we from another planet. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at us like we from another planet. They acting like we from another planet, Mars. They say climate change ain't a thing. What you talking about? What you know about that? What's your carbon offset? Facts. We just wanna act. We ain't sitting back. Solar power. When it's solar power, everybody need the energy. Let's store it up and power the world. Recycle. We need more recycle, but you're acting like some followers on Instagram and Twitter, yeah? So tick tock, don't let the ball drop. The clock starts now, plug in, baby. Hey, so tick tock, don't let the ball drop. The clock starts now, plug in, we gon' save the planet. So tick tock, don't let the ball drop. The clock starts now, plug in, we gon' save the planet. So tick tock, don't let the ball drop. The clock starts now. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. Ooh. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. Ooh. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. Ooh. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. Ooh. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. Everybody looking at me like I'm from another planet. The ocean is alive, keep the plastic out. The ocean is alive, so keep the plastic out. The ocean is alive, keep the plastic out. The ocean is alive, so keep the plastic out. Yeah.
A.Y. Young's performance really hit home the urgency of saving our planet. His message about the ticking clock and the need for action sets the stage perfectly for our next segment. We'll explore the role of land in our fight for a sustainable future. Land is not just a source of food and livelihoods. It plays a key role in regulating our climate. Yet, land around the world is under increasing pressure from climate change, overuse, and degradation. Let's head to Mongolia to see how communities are adapting to these changes.
оноос 2010 он тэр жилийн их хатуу байсан шүү бид нар. Манайх чинь 800 эдэн малт тоглуулаад 300 эдэн малт авчихсан. Бүр ингээд овоолцсон гэх шиг. Намайг уран цэцэг гэдэг энэ нутагтын 20 эдтэйгээс үүдээд 30 эдэн жил мал маллаад амьдарч байна. Монгол малчид бол ерөөсөө өвөл зүүн хавар намар одоо хаана яаж буух байгаа их сайн ажиж байгаль уул усныхаа байдлыг харж иж буух нь зөв байдгийг биднэрт бол ер нь цаг хугацаа холбоотой ерөөсөө дэх үйлчлэл олон төрлийн ургамал ургадаг байсан. Тэр нь одоо ургахаа болоод тэр нь гарахаа болохоор мал тэрийг авахгүй тэгээд нөгөө улирал их сонирн боддог. Өвөлжилт жоохон хүндэрсэн үед бол нүүх нөхцөл гарддаг. Манай аав ээж бол ерөөсөө хэлдэг байсан. Ер нь ингээд өвлжөө барих газраа нэг мод хатгаад үзээ. Мод хатгаад үзсэн үед салхи шуурхтай үед аль талаасаа их мод чин гамдж байна. Аль талаасаа их нар юм тусныхаа тэрийгээр өвлжөөнийхөө бууцыг шинжиж буужээ гэдгийг хэлж өгдөг байсан да. Манай монголчууд мянган жилийн өмнөөс нүүдэлч ахуйгаар амьдарч явсан. Гэхдээ манай монгол нүүдэлч ахуй амьдралд цаашдаа бол ер нь аюул үүдэлтэй байна. Малчин биднэрт бол ерөөсөө нэг тийм хамгаалсан хууль хэрэгтэй байна. Одоо тэгэхгүй бид нарыг чи хамгаалсан хууль дүрэн байхгүй учраас одоо бид нарыг малын бэлчээр дээр алтны уурхаа гаргана гэж улсууд ирвэл бид нар газар энэ чөлөөлж өгөх ажил болно. Энэ талаараа олон улстай хамтарч ажиллаад малчид биднэрт бол ер нь чухал асуудал гэж бас бодож байна миний хувьд бол тий. Нүүдэлчин амьдралаа алдвал одоо тэгэл Монгол ахуй амьдрал устна л гэсэн үг л байх л та. Тэгээд Монгол утгаал алдах байлгүй тийм ээ. Малчин биднэрт ийм амьдрал хатуу ширүүн байлаа ч гэсэн бид нар цаашдаа манай аав манай өвдөц ийм малчин удмаа авч явсан юм чинь манай өөр хүүхд ачтай нар ч гэсэн цаашд энэ амьдралдаа уламжлаад авч яваасаа гэж би бодож явдаг.
The story from Mongolia really brings to life the challenges and resilience of communities facing environmental change. It reminds us how closely our lives are intertwined with land. To protect our lands, we need to ensure that we don't lose more healthy land than we can restore. That's where land degradation neutrality, or LDN, comes in. LDN is about striking a balance, preventing further land degradation while actively restoring what has already been damaged. Let's dive into how this concept works.
Land is the foundation of our societies. It is the engine of economic growth. We build our homes on land, we transport goods by rail and road across the land, we grow our food and produce our energy on the land. Land filters our water and brings it to our taps. Why then do we take land for granted? Why do we degrade this life-giving asset? Why do we misuse it and treat land like dirt? Every year we're losing 24 billion tonnes of fertile soil, 13 million hectares of forest. Sprawling cities and slums are covering some of our most fertile and productive land. Fortunately, we can wake up to a land degradation neutral world. We can create the future we want in two simple ways. We can protect what we have left and fix much of what we have destroyed. Where landscapes are underperforming, we can make them more productive. Where they're sick and tired, we can restore them to health. We have the knowledge, we have the experience. We can roll out affordable and effective practices to manage the land and its resources better. This is the way to reach the other goals on food and water security. It is how we will end poverty and deliver real climate action. Isn't it obvious that we need to take better care of our working landscapes? Let us invest and protect the land, the foundation of all life, to achieve sustainable development for all.
What if we could bring all these efforts together, biodiversity, climate, and land, into one integrated approach for restoring our planet? That's the idea behind Restoring Hope, a process that helps us heal our planet and build a resilient future. Let's hear more from our expert speakers. Cassandra, over to you.
Thank you, Maya. I'm excited to be with our expert speakers here today. Let's jump right in. My first question goes to Andrea Mesa, Deputy Executive Secretary of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, the UNCCD. Maya mentioned the idea of bringing biodiversity, climate, and land degradation into one coherent approach for restoring our planet. Why do you think we should adopt the integrated land use synergies approach?
I'm delighted to address you today at this year's Nature for Life Hub. I think we all agree that time is not on our side to achieve the required transformations to combat land degradation, biodiversity loss, and climate change. It's clear we can't tackle these global challenges in isolation. They're all part of a much larger and complex system. To solve them, we need to work together, break down silos, and bring policy coherence. We need more integration for better impact. And the way to achieve this integration and policy coherence is by implementing a land-based synergies approach. Every decision we take on the way we're managing our cities and rural landscapes is critical to achieve climate, biodiversity, and sustainable goals. It's through land use planning where we can balance our environmental, social, and economic needs all at once. When urban planners, farmers, conservationists, rural and indigenous communities sit down together, share their knowledge, and align their goals, that's when real progress happens. UNCCD COP16 in Riyadh aims to accelerate action to restore 1.5 billion hectares of degraded land by 2030. This restoration can only be successful if it considers climate, biodiversity, soil health, and development needs in a coherent manner.
Thank you, Andrea. It's clear that the integration of climate, biodiversity, and development goals is the way forward to protect and restore our lands effectively. Next, let's hear from Jamal Anakochoa, Forest, Biodiversity and Ecosystem Restoration Officer at the Convention on Biological Diversity, the CBD. Jamal, in light of this land-based synergies approach, what is the role of the GBF and spatial planning in this effort?
We live in a world where 20 to 40% of terrestrial ecosystems are degraded. And competition over multiple land uses is intensifying, which is in turn exacerbating ecosystem degradation. Restoration has achieved progress but remains outpaced by degradation. And to prevent additional degradation and restore affected ecosystems in the most effective way possible, biodiversity conservation objectives should be integrated into land use planning and productive sectors. And this is what the GBF Target 1 sets out to achieve, to ensure that all areas are under participatory, integrated, and biodiversity inclusive spatial planning to avoid loss of areas of high biodiversity importance. And this should be done respecting the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities. To deliver biodiversity inclusive spatial planning, we need national policies that align long-term developmental objectives with the biodiversity outcomes. Governance structures based on the principles of the whole of the government and whole of society approach are also crucial. Spatial planning that considers biodiversity and the economic values of ecosystems can take a variety of forms, and examples abound, from critical biodiversity areas and ecological support areas in South Africa to ecological conservation red lines in China and agroclimatic zones in Brazil. Good practices exist, but their replication poses challenges because contexts are different and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. And as countries are finalizing and submitting their revised NBSAPs and the national targets, it is encouraging to see that most of them set up commitments towards biodiversity-inclusive spatial planning. But in the absence of the internationally agreed definition of biodiversity-inclusive spatial planning, we have no other choice but to be reasonably creative. And the way forward includes fostering learning from the richness of national experiences, peer learning, partnerships for biodiversity mainstreaming across all sectors, and collaboration among the 3 Rio Conventions. And this year, the conferences of the parties of the Rio Conventions will take place almost back-to-back, and this is an excellent opportunity to elevate the role of spatial planning for restoring, protecting, and connecting the living web of our planet, to engage people, and to build peace with nature.
Thank you for that, Jamal. The role of biodiversity-inclusive spatial planning in enhancing restoration efforts is truly essential. Now I have a question for Enrique Paniagua from UNDP's Nature for Development program. Enrique, could you explain how the Restoring Hope project serves as a bridge between the CBD and the UNCCD? How do you think integrated spatial planning can act as a catalyst for achieving policy coherence across the Rio Conventions?
The United Nations Conventions on Climate Change, Biological Diversity, and the certification have set targets focused on protecting and restoring natural ecosystems. At the national level, countries have developed policies to comply with international commitments and their own environmental laws. Despite these efforts, the challenges continue to grow rather than diminish. Each year, new reports highlight the worsening state of our environment. One major reason for this is the inconsistency of our policies. While environmental policies are created, other policies often do not align with them and can even undermine environmental efforts. This is why national priorities, such as those related to international trade, agricultural expansion, mining, and urban development, must be harmonized with environmental goals to achieve true policy coherence. Central to this challenge is land use planning. Land use planning defines the permissible uses of different areas, making it crucial for ensuring coherence between various national agendas. Identifying key areas for restoration is one of the most critical tasks that land use planning must address, as it can unlock multiple benefits for people and all economic sectors. This is exactly what we aim to achieve with the Restoring Hope project. Identify key restoration areas that will deliver results across multiple agendas. Restoring Hope uses the advanced spatial planning tools to identify degraded areas, assess the potential benefits of restoration, and prioritize areas for restoration, addressing multiple sectorial goals simultaneously. We assist countries in prioritizing their restoration goals, gathering the best available data, fostering dialogue and consensus among stakeholders, and producing maps of key restoration areas. Our results aim to optimize restoration goals, promote restoration actions, and contribute to generating policy coherence at both national and international levels.
Thanks, Enrique. It's exciting to hear that the Restoring Hope project is helping countries align their restoration goals with broader environmental and economic objectives. Now we turn to Constanza Tropa, Manager of Ecosystem Conservation and Climate Change at the National Forestry Corporation in Chile, focal point for the UNCCD. Chile was one of the pilot countries for the Restoring Hope project. So why is it important for Chile to have access to spatial planning tools and analysis?
Chile es uno de los países más vulnerables a las consecuencias del cambio climático, dada la geomorfología que tiene, pero que a su vez también es rica en biodiversidad. Es importante que desde ese punto de vista se puedan generar datos, no solamente para dar respuesta a tanto a las distintas convenciones, sino para dar respuesta a los territorios, a las comunidades, de las situaciones que están pasando. O sea, en Chile pasamos de desierto, zonas mediterráneas templadas, incluso llegamos a zonas extremas como la Patagonia o incluso Magallanes o Antártica chilena. Por lo tanto, importante que esas medidas que son muy específicas y que requieren mucha información sean tomadas de buena manera por parte de los estados y por parte de los servicios. Y de esta forma generar un conjunto de instrumentos financieros, un conjunto de instrumentos que nos permitan restaurar, que nos permitan evitar que las consecuencias del cambio climático lleguen a o afecten a las distintas comunidades que viven y que subsisten de esos ecosistemas. Por otro lado, Chile también cuenta con el sistema de áreas protegidas del Estado, que hoy día está transitando a otro instrumento de política pública que es el Servicio de Biodiversidad y Áreas Protegidas. Por lo tanto, esa transición y esa recategorización de las unidades de áreas silvestres protegidas también requiere información de datos espaciales para que podamos estructurar y podamos planificar esas unidades de áreas silvestres protegidas. Así que Chile ha conformado una estructura de políticas que den respuesta, pero que luego se tienen que materializar en buenas decisiones y en buenos instrumentos.
Thank you, Constanza. It's inspiring to see Chile as an example of how science has connected conventions with the country's decision-making process to drive restoration efforts. Let's now hear from Daniel Álvarez, Chief of Biodiversity, Policy and Planning of Chile's Ministry of Environment, ministry that is a focal point for the CBD. So Daniel, can you tell us how advanced spatial tools help improve your policy making? Specifically, how have these tools enhanced the country's ability to point out areas for restoration that align with national and international priorities, like the National Restoration Plan for Chile and the Rio Conventions?
Empezamos a trabajar en el proyecto Restaurando la Esperanza, que es esta segunda etapa de ELSA. Fuimos a 100 por 100 metros el píxel, por lo tanto una resolución de mayor detalle que nos permitía poder examinar con mayor precisión el territorio y algo que estábamos buscando. Nosotros estamos trabajando en nuestra política pública, en el Plan Nacional de Restauración y otra serie de políticas, pero fundamentalmente en el Plan Nacional de Restauración nos interesa tener estas propuestas de estos escenarios de áreas de interés para la restauración. Y con este píxel de 100 por 100 metros se consigue entonces una mejor resolución, nos permite mirar mejor los territorios. Pero esto se corrió en todo el territorio del país, de modo que nos da una excelente aproximación que de todas formas podemos seguir trabajando dinámicamente, podemos incorporar nueva información de más detalle, incluso podemos cambiar de escala o sensibilizar determinados parámetros y con ello ir teniendo una herramienta de generación de mapas que nos permite tomar mejores decisiones o evaluar mejor dónde poner el foco de la política pública, dónde poner a lo mejor el foco de los instrumentos el entendido que siempre hay esta flexibilidad con la generación de estos escenarios y por lo tanto podemos revisitar aquellos que hemos probado en una ocasión, podemos volverlo a visitar con nueva información. Entonces esas son las virtudes que nosotros encontramos tanto en ELSA como en la iniciativa de Restaurando la Esperanza, y pensamos también que es una herramienta que nos permite comunicar con otros actores, es decir, presentar estos escenarios, eventualmente recibir feedback de estos actores y ver si es necesario ajustar o incorporar nuevos elementos. Todo esto además es muy útil para la coordinación de las políticas y podríamos decir que es una manera de poner en vínculo los objetivos de las políticas nacionales con los objetivos de las grandes convenciones internacionales como la Convención de Biodiversidad, de Cambio Climático y de lucha contra la desertificación, que tienen objetivos transversales, y el hecho de contar con una herramienta que permita espacializar estos objetivos, digamos, haciendo participar información que permite ver aspectos de biodiversidad, de cambio climático o de degradación, bueno, y obtener mapas más integrados es algo de gran valor y que nosotros estamos todavía explorando qué uso le vamos a dar en el Plan Nacional de Restauración y en otras políticas eventualmente. Entonces es una herramienta dinámica, una herramienta flexible y es una herramienta que permite volver a evaluar lo que se ha hecho y ajustarlo y mejorarlo a función de la información que se tenga. De modo que nosotros continuaremos explorando estas potencialidades y eso nos va a ayudar a hacer mejor la focalización de los esfuerzos de gestión pública.
Thank you, Daniel. It's clear that the ability to adapt and revisit areas based on updated data is a game changer for long-term sustainability. A big thank you to all of our speakers today. The insights you have shared show us how collaboration, planning, and innovation are key to building a sustainable future. Now, I'd love to hear from all of you watching. What actions are you taking in your communities to protect and restore nature? Share your thoughts in the chat. Back over to you, Maya.
A big thank you to our speakers for this conversation. To our viewers, if you have questions for our panelists, please drop them in the chat and we'll make sure to pass them along. Before we shift our focus to the power of remote sensing for land conservation, we have a special treat for you. We're thrilled to welcome Raven Wright, an indigenous contemporary artist from New Mexico, whose performance beautifully expresses the deep connection between culture and nature. Let's enjoy this captivating dance that honors the spirit of the earth. And we're back. To close day one, we're diving into a topic that's been on everyone's mind lately. How can technology make a real difference for nature? From mapping and data platforms to innovative challenges, technology is reshaping how we approach biodiversity, climate action, and land management. In this last segment, we'll explore 4 exciting examples of technology making an impact. First up is the Map of Hope in Ecuador, using mapping tech for conservation. Next, we'll look at Pangea, a platform for environmental data and planning. Then we'll explore CIPO, a tool for tracking land cover changes. And finally, we'll learn about the X Prize, which challenges innovators to develop groundbreaking solutions for our planet. As you are watching the videos, let us know in the chat which tools you are using in your conservation work.
Our planet is facing a triple emergency. Climate change generates disasters in different parts of the world. Biodiversity loss as various human pressures on nature threaten 1 million endangered species. And pollution, which continues to poison the air, land, and water. But not everything is lost. In addition to advancing the 2030 agenda, countries around the world are making bold commitments to address these challenges. Responding to this need, the project, Mapping Nature for People and Planet, led by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, was born. To support countries in using the latest technological advances in national and global science and spatial data to create a national map of hope. As a result, the essential life support areas, ELSA, are identified in different countries. In these areas, nature can support the achievement of national objectives on biodiversity, climate change, and sustainable development, food security, etc., at the same time to avoid working in silos. The result is a map that governments can use to harmonize their development policies with their conservation of nature and thus prioritize areas for protection, sustainable management, and restoration. So far, 13 countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia are working to develop their map of hope. The process of developing the map has 3 phases. First phase, a national vision is generated. Stakeholders reach consensus on the country's top 10 policy commitments related to nature, climate, and sustainable development. Then, a group of experts identify and compile national spatial datasets that already exist in the country that can be used to represent these commitments. They also agree on national and area-based targets for the protection, management, and restoration of land areas. Second phase. Based on the previous inputs and using the principles of systematic conservation planning, the group of experts conducts a prioritization exercise using the ELSA online web tool, which leads to the creation of the first iteration map of the country's essential life support areas. In this process, with the support of the UNDP, stakeholders and experts discuss the trade-offs and iterate new version of the ELSA map. Finally, in the third phase, the project supports stakeholders in identifying opportunities to integrate the results of the analysis and mapping into national information, planning documents, and policies for nature, climate, and sustainable development. In the case of Ecuador, together with the Ministry of Environment, Water, and Ecological Transition, various possible uses of the ELSA map have been identified. Among them, contribute to the decision-making in the country's territorial planning, as well as the generation of public policy. Conduct an exhaustive analysis of the conservation gaps necessary for Ecuador to achieve the goals set out in its various policies and strategic plans. Develop a mechanism to align the ELSA map areas with the concepts of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought, UNCCD, and seek specific synergies. Report on the progress in meeting Sustainable Development Goal 15 on the life of terrestrial ecosystems, along with other tools. Identify areas for the protection of indigenous territories, especially in the Ecuadorian Amazon. as well as areas for the conservation of landscapes and biodiversity that are not framed within the protected areas. Determine unprotected areas adjacent to protected areas in order to create ecological corridors to encompass areas to conserve species in danger of extinction due to fragmentation. Nowadays, in Ecuador, we must change our current lifestyle, as ecosystems will no longer be able to meet our demands. Thanks to the generation of ELSA maps, governments are able to make better decisions in the planning and use of natural resources, incorporating biodiversity in a wide range of sectors. This will not only result in economic and environmental improvements for countries, but will also positively impact health, reduce poverty, and open the possibilities for higher sustainable development.
Deforestation and degradation of ecosystems are the greatest threats to biodiversity in the world, and the largest greenhouse gas emitters in Brazil. Today, 75% of the Earth's surface has already been changed. Exacerbated by climate change, this change in land use affects nature's contributions to people, such as the provision of food, regulation of air quality, and the availability of water resources. To meet this global challenge, nature-based solutions, such as conservation and restoration of native vegetation, are increasingly becoming protagonists in reconciling the integrity of ecosystems and income generation. To increase these benefits, the International Institute for Sustainability, IIS, has developed a methodology which identifies priority areas for conservation initiatives and restoration of ecosystems around the world. You can see some of these results on Plangeia Web, a free online platform to support land use planning. On the interactive map of the platform, it is possible to simulate different conservation and restoration scenarios. In addition to the map visualization, the results are also displayed in diagrams, tables, images, and reports. You can check which areas have the greatest benefits for biodiversity conservation at the same time, and the mitigation of climate change, and the lowest economic costs for restoration measures. Try out the platform. Register at the website plangeia.earth. International Institute for Sustainability. Solutions that change the world.
If you want to detect and monitor the degradation of forests, map deforestation, and track ecosystem restoration projects and initiatives, you need to know what's happening on the ground, also using satellite imagery. But until recently, it wasn't easy to handle the data. FAO has a new platform that makes it all simpler, CIPO. CIPO is a free and open-source cloud computing platform accessible from any computer, laptop, or smartphone. Connecting with existing sources of satellite imagery or remotely sensed data that previously required a large computer and expensive software licenses to be processed. CIPO allows users to create and analyze data from any place on Earth for free. It can be used to generate and improve land use maps, analyze time series, run detection and perform accuracy assessment and area assessment, all key tasks in the context of forest protection, sustainable production, and restoration. Developed in collaboration with many, including the World Bank and NASA, and with financial support from the government of Norway, CEPOL currently has more than 8,500 users from more than 180 countries, and it's been proving its value. Government agencies, private institutions, NGOs, academics, and researchers are all active users of CEPOL, but the platform is open to anyone, with an entire world of land data just 3 clicks away.
A lot of the issues we're facing today in terms of wildfires, pandemics, have been predicted for a very long time. We're living in that reality of those consequences right now. So it terrifies me to think of continuing at this pace.
Biodiversity loss is one of the biggest challenges that we have as humanity. So the idea was to co-create with XPRIZE, a prize that could help us to understand better the rainforest and really then develop technologies to map it.
XPRIZE Rainforest is a 5-year, $10 million global competition that is gathering innovators and experts from across disciplines, challenging them to create new technologies to rapidly monitor tropical biodiversity.
The aim of the competition is to survey as much biodiversity as possible. Loads of species out here that remain undiscovered, and we need to be able to build up those databases and those libraries so that we know what those species are before they disappear.
Teams competing in XPRIZE rainforests have been designing and developing technologies that can quickly and comprehensively survey rainforest biodiversity and provide real-time insights to improve our understanding of these complex ecosystems. 6 teams have advanced to the competition finals. In Amazonas, Brazil, they will compete to produce the most impactful, real-time results of a 24-hour survey of 100 hectares of tropical rainforest.
The point of the competition focusing on 100 hectares is to prove and demonstrate certain approaches that can work and be scaled beyond that.
The winning team will not only produce impactful data, but prove that their technology can scale to meet the size of the challenge facing global rainforests and create accessible solutions to problems facing local and global communities. Working together, we can provide the data needed to inform and enforce legal protections and preserve this essential realm of biodiversity for generations to come.
Visit us at xprize.org or subscribe to our channel to watch more upcoming episodes about XPRIZE Rainforest, a global effort to protect these essential and biodiverse ecosystems.
Now let's dive deeper into how technology is advancing our environmental goals. Reina Otsuka from the UNDP is joining us to share her perspective of the future of technology in creating a sustainable world. Hello, Reina. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get right to it. Why is digital transformation such an important part of accelerating action on nature?
So nature action needs to happen at scale and rapidly in order for us to achieve the global biodiversity framework. And digital, or to be more specific, digital transformation can bring this change at scale. It can also bring efficiency at, we call it 10 times scale. And also it changes the way we do business or the way we do things. So for example, data analytics is important. Automation is of course important, but more than that, how can we actually implement things like the biodiversity credit? Biodiversity credit, if you do everything on paper and manually as we used to do things, it will not be possible. But by using digital, we can start to, monitor nature in a different way. We can start to understand biodiversity with much more complex, data structure. We could also, unlock these biodiversity credits and payments to local communities or people in a way that was not possible before by using all of these different mobile payments and digital ID, stuff like this. So I think, the power of digital is in the way how we approach these existing great ideas, but doing it in a different way and at scale.
That's fascinating. It's incredible how technology is not only speeding up the process, but also changing how we manage nature. Can you share some trends you are seeing in the space of nature and digital technologies right now?
I see two big trends that are happening now in the digital world. The first is on the monitoring technology. So satellite imagery has been around for a while, but it's increasingly becoming a norm to use satellite imagery combining with artificial intelligence on, monitoring nature from the sky, such as deforestation. But increasingly, there's other technologies like drones, LiDAR data, which, you're able to look at things in a 3D-dimensional way. There's things like eDNA, acoustic sound data is another newly emerging technology. In addition, digital sequencing. These different ways of monitoring and measuring nature close to near time. This is a really rapidly growing area that I see that can change the way we interact and understand nature. The second big area is the digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure, or DPI, is also a newly emerging area where things like digital ID or digital payment protocols, data exchange, these foundational building blocks of digital can unlock change at a societal level. And for example, by adding a nature ID, if we can have a way to, as a public infrastructure, have something like a nature identification where you can manage all of nature's different dimensions of biodiversity and the environmental benefits. Something like that could help unlock new ways of green financing and biodiversity financing. So I see these two as big trends that can bring a big change.
The potential of these innovations is truly incredible. So what do you think we'll see 5 years from now?
We say the Moore's law, digital technologies grow exponentially. And I'm sure in 5 years, there will be things that are happening which we can't really imagine right now. But, for example, yes, AI will probably be able to support policy making using predictive abilities, or even identify different causal relationships and, again, predict or come up with predictions that humans can use. In addition, of course, data will be more accessible and usable, potentially cheaper, so that normal citizens or local communities can use it more easily. But I do think the important thing here is that as a global community, we really intentionally shape the direction of the technology advancement. These things will not happen automatically. We do want to make sure that at the global level, national level, and also at the organizational level, try to shape and direct the technology in the way that we want, so that it is something that safeguards nature and human rights, and also to be mindful of all of the negative impact that it might bring at the same time. And I think this is a call out to everybody who's watching this to start to really shape this conversation together.
Such a strong point, Reina. A great reminder that we all need to play a role in steering this technological revolution in the right direction. To everyone watching, what do you think about these advancements? How do you see technology impacting your conservation work? Share your thoughts in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Reina, thank you so much for your insights. Back over to you, Maya. It's exciting to imagine the advancements in technology for nature over the next 5 years. Share your thoughts in the chat and let's keep the conversation going. We'll be back tomorrow to dive into investing in a nature-positive economy. We'll explore how shifting private and public finance can drive this important change. I hope you'll join us for that discussion. In the meantime, join the Reimagine Our Future video campaign. Create a short video with the prompt, "If we reimagine our relationship with nature, we can create a world where..." Post your video on Instagram and tag #NatureForLife and #ReimagineOurFuture. We can't wait to see all of your inspiring contributions. We want to leave you today with a fascinating music video by the talented Benjamin Mirren, known for his unique blend of nature sounds and music. Benjamin will take us on a sonic journey that connects us with the rhythms of nature. Thank you so much for joining us today, and see you tomorrow.
When you live in the rainforest of Borneo, sometimes it can be hard to see your friends through the trees. So you have to make contact another way. You could fly up to the treetops and sing like a bird. That's a golden whiskered barbet. Of course, this strategy is not unique to birds. Lots of primates use sound to survive, like this gibbon. And don't forget the orangutan. If we really listen to nature, we can bring all our voices together as one. Everybody now. That's very much. Now move, come on. Let's go!